Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hello my friends, how are you doing? How's it going? Oh yes, hello to you too sir, driving by. So today we're bringing back an oldie but a goodie. I haven't made this video in a few years. And the last time we did it, it was called He's Too Big. This time I think I'm going to label it the Make It Fit is I think what we're going with this. But you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about those big-dicked men with a big package that it just might be too tight for real. For real, it just might be. And sometimes we just need some of that in our lives, okay? Whether he's bashful about it and afraid he's gonna hurt you, or he's ready to ram it home, we got it for you today, okay? All right, let's do it. Okay, first off, I'm gonna start with a couple historicals. Actually, we're gonna ease our way up into some of the crazier ones on here. Because yeah, I am wearing my Monster Romance Girly shirt, so you know we're gonna go there with some of these, okay? All right, I will have links to all of these down below if you want to take one of these well-endowed heroes home with you. So go ahead and click on those down there. It helps out the channel if you do. So this first one here, I had actually forgot that I read this one, so I love when I look up lists. Don't mind me, I do have the notes for this one written down. This one is actually called The Scoundrel Seeks a Wife by Gemma Frost. Now, I actually looked at my notes and I did read this one because it had the big dicked hero in it, okay? I think this was only the second Gemma Frost that I read. I have read a few of hers now. She generally writes curvy heroines and they are pretty saucy, the ones that she writes. So this one is, there's this girl named Iris. She's very beautiful and shy, and she doesn't want to be a burden to her biological mother, and now she has a biological father who has recently revealed himself, and she yearns to be accepted by him. So when he suggests she marry a stranger to help him overcome a financial woes, she doesn't want to say no. But then she meets Clark Calloway, and it isn't going to be as difficult as she thinks to fall for him. Now, he's known for his gambling and womanizing, and he's anything but husband material. But when this Marquess is indebted to him and approached him with the deal, and he sees how absolutely gorgeous and sweet and beautiful she is, he can't say no, all right? But then once he's taken her as a wife, she just, you know, he's just afraid that he's gonna hurt her. So, you know, and also being a gentleman, this isn't the type of case where he traded for this girl and is just like, she's gonna do whatever I want. He's a real gentleman about it. But eventually Iris is gonna get frustrated and say, you know what, damn it, I'm married to this big hunk of a man. Is he gonna do something about it, okay? So he's scared to bed her and afraid that he's gonna hurt her. And it's that type of thing, right? He's a bit bashful about it, but she's determined that it's going to happen. So this one was, there's sex toys involved in this one too. I believe, if I remember correctly too, it has to do with the like stretching out effect involved, or helping things loosen up a bit down there. We love to see it. So that is The Scoundrel Seeks a Wife. And as I said, this one is a shorty. It's not particularly deep, though you can make the innuendos there. It's deep in other ways, there we go. But I'm sorry, you guys, when I do these, you know you're in for the innuendo train, or you would be watching one of my Taboo rec videos, right? And not that it's taboo to have a big dick, but y'all have dirty minds like me, and you click on the video better if it's taboo. You know you do. So make sure you've liked this video by now. And after this one, there's a whole playlist of all my taboo and naughty recommendations. So save it for that. Okay, like I said, we're going to do a couple other historicals too. So another one, we have, of course, Seduce Me at Sunrise by Lisa Kleypas. And we have Mary Penn, aka Kev Mary Penn. And this is a childhood friends to lovers book. This is a part of the Hathaway series. And in this one, we have Wynne Hathaway, and she's been very sickly for her young life, and it's actually been worried that she might die young. But thankfully, that's not going to happen because we have HEAs on the way in this series. But Kev, he is a Romani man, and he was actually taken in by their family. And as I said, been kind of raised with them. I mean, not since he was a baby. So this isn't like, you know, he feels like a brother. But he has also been secretly pining for her all this time. She has been secretly pining, but at the beginning of this book, it's not so secret anymore. She tries to make her move, and he's just like, no. And part of it is he, you know, doesn't think she could ever love him. It's that type of thing. But also, he is afraid of, like, killing a woman through sexy time and childbirth and things like that. And because Wynn has been delicate most of her life, that's just a whole nother layer of it for him, right? So he really is worried that that could happen. So, you know, poor guy. But Wynn is just not going to put up with that for very much longer. And so at the beginning of this book, she does actually go away with her brother because she does need to get better. She is sick, and she needs to be strengthened. Now, when she comes back with one of her doctors. And if Kev doesn't make a move, he might lose her to this man. So, but yeah, this one involves him. He's not just worried he'll hurt her with his dick, which, I mean, there's that. It's actually the fear of, like, her dying in childbirth, and he sees that as the only logical conclusion of consummating and things like that. But it's good, you know. Clape has rights a possessive hero too, and Kev is just, he's wonderful. Okay, another historical we have is The Wickedness of the Highlander by Lisa Braden. So this one is Alexander McPherson, and it's Sabella Lockhart. Now this one very much is like an enemies to lovers. It's also kind of a workplace romance is how it works out as well. She ends up having lost all her possessions in the beginning of this, and she actually wants to speak to some of his family members to apologize for things that I think it was her brother did. It's her brother, her father, I think it was her brother did. But they're all gone. Like, they're all gone. There's only Alex left around, and he wants nothing to do with her, or so he says. But when, as I said, she gets stranded there, loses all of her possessions, she has no place to go. And so she actually gets, like, hired by him to work in his home. And he decides he's going to get some pretty petty revenge on her by giving her, you know, crappy jobs to do or making it difficult for her. But two things he isn't expecting. One, that he's so attracted to her that he's doomed as soon as he allows her to stay in his home. And number two, she is really trying to make amends, but also be better than she was before. And so she's trying to get the hang of being a maid and being a housekeeper type of thing. But yeah, and this one also has, as we said, super big dick Highlander. We love to see it. There's no surprise because I believe in this, all the McPhersons are like over 6'5". So if you had a tiny package, there would be some other questions we had to ask anyway. Not that we'll ever shame a man for dick size, but we know how it goes in romance anyway. Everybody's got a big dick going on. And speaking of, we have Grimstone by Sophie Lark. And this makes me giggle a little because one of the jokes that I told Sophie when I was reading my arc of this way back when is that she always has, like, he's too big type of thing or make it fit going on. And I was like, you know, sometimes it could be interesting of, like, that it's just a normal size and they know how to use it really good. And she jokes, she's like, I can't do it. It's always got to be the big dicked guy. And I'm like, okay. So you can take from that what you will. A lot of her stories have it. Now, one of the reasons I bring this one up, this isn't my very favorite of hers, but I did really enjoy Monarch that just recently came out. And that one's a very slow burn, right? This one isn't. This one is an erotic romance. This one is an erotic romance in my opinion, where I would consider Monarch more of a, like, slow burn mystery thriller going on. This one was very sexy for sure, and there's actually a bit of a blackmailing that happens by our the hero in here, Dane, and to blackmail the heroine, He is, what is he holding over her head? I can't remember what it is now. It's been a hot minute. But anyway, she ends up being injured while she's renovating her home, and he sews her up. And after he sews her up, he decides to steal a kiss or two in payment. And then I think it's to give her access to the home. I think that's what it is, because his home is right next to the one that her and her brother have inherited, and they're trying to fix it up so they can flip this house. And he ends up extracting sexual favors from her to give her access to, I think it's a certain road or path or whatever they need. And she is only a bit too willing to have that happen. She doesn't really fight it too much. We'll say that. Let me see if I can find, there's a really hot picture in here. Here we go. Here we go. Sewing up her leg right there. We love to see it. But anywho, this is one, if you're in it for some hot, sexy times, written by Sophie Lark. This is a good one for it for sure. So, okay, then let's do a couple of our monsters here. Let's do some of our monsters. As I said, monster romance girly for sure. That is one of the joys of monster romance. Let's be honest. 2 dicks, weirdly shaped dicks, knots, all those things. That's what we love about monster romance, right? And a few of them that the monsters have extremely large cocks, and that could do some damage for sure. One of those such creatures would be Eden. So this one's actually an MM romance as well, between a very grumpy military human and Eden, who is our sunshiny, crazy monster man, Eden. And he just immediately is interested in this grumpy man, and he really, really wants to fuck Hunter. He really wants to fuck Hunter. And Hunter, I think he's either like bisexual or already like gay or whatever. I can't remember his sexuality at the beginning of this. All I know is that where it goes from there is that he ends up being saved by Eden in the beginning of this. Now, the soldiers in this series, they are like from the government forced to like hunt monsters. They're trying to eradicate them, which is never going to happen because of how many there are and where this dystopian world is at, what point they're at now. But after he saves him, Eden just kind of tags along when Hunter tries to go rescue his friend Charlie, who gets kidnapped by some monsters and taken to an underground fighting ring where they're making humans fight for them, which is very interesting. And Eden's like, dude, you're never going to make it there without me. And so we have this sunshiny, very sexual monster who is just hounding Hunter all the time. And so it does not take long before Hunter gives in to his curiosity and lets this big purple kilt-wearing monster fuck him real, real good. So, very, very hot. This one's very hot, but also sweet because Eden is wonderful. I love him. And one that I just reread, and I know that I'm 95% sure that the first video I made, I had these books in there as well, but I don't care. I'm putting them in it again because I just reread this book and I remembered how big the dick of this Naga was, okay? And now, all of the books in this series, they have really big dicks, okay? They're monsters, and the human women are itty-bitty. But in this one particularly, there is this absolutely hot but devastating scene, okay? Because this whole time in these books, these Nagas are very obsessive ones. They don't need to be convinced to love the human women. They already know that they want them. They know that they're their mates, and they are just egging. They are just dying to get themselves all up in these sweet human women, okay? And now in this one, King Cobra, also known as Zaku, Daisy is meant to be his mate, and Daisy is really small and tiny and also has basically been kidnapped by this Naga, who, though he wants to make her his queen, like from the very first chapter, he's like, she's gonna be my queen. Why won't she let me treat her like a queen? And he's constantly saying, like, you're gonna let me breed you eventually, right? Lots of breeding happens in these. You know, you're here for it too. You know you are. And he's so insistent that it will work. Now, something about the Nagas, We learn this from different ones as we go through the series, that their pheromones definitely prepare the women for them, not only by making them more like weak in the knees for them and starts making them appear attractive to them, but also physically their pheromones can like loosen the women up a little bit, as it were. But the first time he actually starts shoving it in there to make it fit, as it were, you know, he honestly is like, I could kill her. And he has the most agonizing scene where he's literally like wants to tear himself apart because he's afraid that he's gonna hurt her. And he's like, she was right, I'm too big for her, like I'm gonna kill her. Like, it is honestly such a precious moment. It shouldn't be, but it is, because all he wants to do is love her. And like, we've been in his mind, like we know how much he adores her. She's scared out of her mind, not only because she's seen how big that dick is, she's scared out of her mind, but also then to have him be like, oh my God, I can never like have her, is crazy. But I'll tell you this, when we finally get to the point in this story where we're actually gonna fit it in there, they do this thing where like, because the Nagas have knots and he's afraid the knot will like hurt her, so they literally like empty him over and over and over again until he's like depleted enough for him to be able to fit. Okay, so this one is literally a make it fit. Okay, there we go. That's enough. You can't see, but I'm blushing inside. It's there. It's there for sure. Okay, then one other that is kind of a monster. It's more, you know, this one is more sci-fi dystopian world, and that is actually Born for Silk by Nikki Harris. And this world is a very interesting mix of like a Handmaid's Tale situation mixed with actual, like, there are modified humans that are now called, I can't remember what they're called now, I apologize. But there are these like modified men who have attributes that is more like alien-esque now, and there are these women who get put into these basically like harems, and you don't know which woman is actually being bred by the king so that no one can go after the heir. That's like how it works. It's a very interesting setup how Nikki Harris has this set up, because yeah, the way she has this set up, is it Nikki Harris? Did I say the right name? Yeah. You don't quite know who will have the heir. But in this case, we have this couple who he doesn't care if anyone knows. He's not going to be sleeping with any other woman but her. Okay, so we have this pairing. This, of course, there's a ceremony when she loses her virginity. You're literally supposed to be behind a curtain, so you don't know who's doing it. But he was like, don't worry, it's only going to be me. It's only going to be me. Now, when they fuck a woman, there's literally a point they're supposed to stop at, because it will hurt them. This isn't the type of like monster one where, like, as I said, right, like the female or internal organs literally like expand so that they can be fucked by a Naga, right? That's not what happens in this one. So he literally knows like how far he can put himself in or he would hurt her. And like, he's okay with that because he's just so into her, it's all right. But she gets frustrated by it because there are these women that are also modified that are basically like, it's kind of sad, but they're basically like a modified woman that's made just so she can be fucked by one of these modified men. It's very like, oh, it makes you sick. And she doesn't want him to want to go to one of those women instead of her, which he doesn't. He's not thinking that, but she is. And so there's a scene where she tries to like force him in further, and he like gets mad at her. It's hot. Okay, it's hot. And he basically says, he's like, if you want to take all of me, we'll work on preparing your other hole to be able to do it. So this is one of those that he won't fit in the front door, but we make the back door work for it. So I'm just telling you, it's hot. It's intense. But there is a scene where she's literally like begging him to take her all the way. And he's like, I can't. I will kill you with my dick. Sorry, I'm laughing. It's a good story. I really love this one. And this one definitely has more than the sex going on. There's so much involved in this world, and Nikki Harris did such a good job setting it up. And I can't wait to read more, because this one did have an HEA, but there are 2 more books coming in the trilogy about different couples. And this one was really epic. I loved it a lot. Okay, one to bring up that I hesitated bringing this up, but also I want all the excuses to talk about this series, so I don't really care. And that is A Cage of Ice and Echoes by Pam Godwin. Now, this is the middle book in the Frozen Fate trilogy, okay? This is a Why Choose series. And yeah, how do I even say it? So I'll just say this. One of the people in this Why Choose is a virgin is a virgin. And he's a very well-endowed man. And there's a super hot scene in a cabin where we're snuggling for warmth. I mean, all the scenes in this one are in a cabin where it's frozen. And I really wonder that if these weren't such horny people, if we would be doing that when it's this cold. But, you know, Pam won't let that stop us. But there's a particular scene with this one character who's this virgin that he's getting it in for the first time. And it's so hard to describe it. I know. I can't say too much about this series, but the series in general, right, is about this woman named Frankie. She gets kidnapped from her husband after they have a fight. She gets kidnapped by this horrible man named Denver, who brings her to his isolated, like, homestead in the Arctic Circle where his 3 sons live. 3 sons who have varying degrees of hatred for him, which we don't fully understand in the beginning. It's always a fight for survival in this, but after some events at the end of the first book, this book really is all about survival. And also this woman who is married was kidnapped from her husband and now being held captive by an undetermined number of men. I won't tell you how many. And she's slowly falling in love with a good number of them, we'll say. And some of the sex scenes in here are wild. Throughout the series, there is no, like, this is a reverse hammer Why Choose. There's no, like, contact in these. The men are all related somehow. Won't tell you how. All the men are related somehow, so there's no sword crossings, but there are multiple scenes of, like, sharing in these. But that feels like so belittling to the series to just point those things out when Pam Godwin is who she is, because the story she tells, there's a lot more to it than that, for sure. Okay, now just a couple more here. There is The Bones of Love by Megan Montgomery. I haven't talked about this one in a hot minute. This is a part of I think the series is like The Remains of Love or something like that. I don't know, but this relationship I really, really loved. This was the first time I read this author earlier this year. And this is a series that does focus on death very heavily, because there's this family that they're all like, they're either morticians or they've worked at the funeral home or they've been involved in that capacity. And one of the hero of this one is actually he enters into basically a marriage of convenience with his friend, who she is an anthropologist. He is going to be a priest, and in his specific religion, if you are married before you become a priest, like, you can be married, but once you are a priest, like, you're taking a vow of celibacy. So basically that's the point, is like, if you've entered into marriage, that's a holy bond, so you can have sex or have kids or whatever your marriage decides. But if you're not married, then, like, you're married to God and there's no one above him. So you can't be dating someone while you're a priest. Does that make sense, right? I am not of this religion. That's how it's explained in the book. But to not, like, doom either one of them to never have a family, because she's never really had time to have a family because of her work, they have a marriage of convenience. But it takes a long time for them to actually consummate this. It's a very slow burn to that, because he feels like she only married him for obligation, since this is a marriage of convenience. He doesn't realize that there is something she gets out of it too, as in she loves him too. But he's also a very big-dicked man in here. And when they finally get to the point where they speak the words like, I didn't just marry you for convenience, things are going to get saucy for them. They're going to get spicy for them. And there's going to be some making it fit happen, which is great. Okay, then we have a mafia romance. We have Tempted by the Devil by Michelle Hurd. Now, I don't remember this one perfectly. I know I liked this one. I believe this is one where, yeah, I think this is one where the heroine's brother was going to like give her as a gift to this guy, and instead, I mean, he accepts the gift, but he then gets revenge on her brother for what he's done to her. And she's been very abused her whole life. And it's a very interesting twist because this is one where like he's a very dominant hero. Of course, it's Mafia Don. He's a big boss, but he's so tender with her. And it's so sweet. And this one has one of those really hot, like, sex scenes where he's just like, you know, you got to take it for me. You can do it. You can do it. Be a good girl and take it all. I can't, okay? I can't do it. It's wonderful. Love it. Okay, now the last one I want to mention, because the fanfiction readathon is still happening right now. And a book that I read last month that was actually a favorite of mine, or not a book, a fic, sorry. I'm trying to change my language about those. This is free. You can go download this and read it. It's called This Thing Between Us by Lady Hilder. And this one is very heavily BDSM focused. It absolutely is. It starts very much enemies, though it does also have secretly pining Draco, and he kind of hates that he pines for her. So it's that like, I hate that I want you. And on her side, it's a little bit of that as well. And in this version of Dramini, they actually did kind of both like each other in school, but like it was never going to happen. So it came out as hate instead. But they now kind of work together in this. He is actually well, there's a lot I can't tell you about what he does for a job, but he does work for the ministry. And the way that it's portrayed is that he's kind of like out on parole in the sense that he was working for the ministry in exchange for getting out of Azkaban early. So yeah, I won't spoil how that plays out or anything. His father is actually still in Azkaban. And anyway, so he and Hermione end up, their feelings all kind of like explode one night when they're like having drinks with their friends, and they end up fucking in an alleyway. And it's super hot, and he does like, it's a CNC, like she's consented to him doing this, but they do really kind of like fight through this sex scene, and he very much is shoving it in there without too much getting ready for it, right? But then later on in the series, like they discover they both really like this dynamic that they have, and so they begin a, you know, sex with benefits type of thing, which becomes this very deeply connecting relationship through BDSM. And it very much is a BDSM as healing story, but it does start out like very sexy, right on the money. It's very rough, it's very dark, and it's through a lot of that pain and through a lot of the like endorphin dump that comes after scenes where they start to unravel a lot of their damage and like discuss things. And I love that. Okay, I love it. I eat it. Eat it right up. Okay, I love it so much. So there you go for that. Anyway, but let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. That's what I have for this one. Again, I have another video that has this, as well as I have a whole playlist with a bunch of taboo and naughty recommendations. I have a dark romance playlist. I got all of it. As well as if you want to snag any of these reads, please use it down below. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, check out my Patreon if you want to support me. I have behind the scenes videos there for you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.